So, you love drawing grand architecture, but the problem is grand architecture is so grand and there's so much detail that it can take a very long time to draw, even longer than you have available on a day-to-day basis. And yet you'd love the chance to do some drawing every day. So how can we practice our drawing in a way that equips us for doing the grand architectural drawings we want to do, but not overwhelm us or cause us to rush and actually develop bad habits? I think this is a great way to do it, and that's to focus on some architectural detail of the sort of architecture we want to draw. It's not just that we develop our skills in drawing, it's actually that we start to focus. In fact, we're kind of compelled to focus if we do subjects such as this one we're doing now. We're compelled to focus on the details of the architecture that perhaps we wouldn't normally have time to see when we're doing a whole drawing of a whole building, because it's just a bit overwhelming. Or perhaps the distance is far away enough that some of this detail isn't particularly clear. And yet, in my experience, even when we're drawing a subject from far away enough that we can't see all the detail to draw, and therefore we're really not going to draw it, that if I understand how that detail is working, because I'm experienced with that sort of detail from other drawings, it really helps me capture the feel of that drawing far more compellingly, even when I'm not actually having to put lines in for it all. That the lines, the marks I do put in, do kind of get a sense of realism for that sort of detail, because I'm aware of what is there. So even when we're not drawing the detail, if we understand the detail, we can find the most effective marks more easily. Which is a long way of saying it's really good for our learning process, our understanding of drawing architecture, to simply understand the architecture. And yes, with these very detailed, very ornate buildings, that can be hard to do all at once. But if I do 15-minute drawing exercises every day, every second day, then bit by bit, I can tackle all the detail on the, in this case, neoclassical architecture that we may love. And the thing with neoclassical architecture is many of the architectural elements are repeated, whether they're pediments, whether they're columns, whether they're the capitals, in this case, Ionic capitals, often Corinthian capitals or Doric capitals, or more creative ones that are based on those Greek orders. Then if we focus just on those in more of a way than we usually do in doing a whole building, it has great benefits for what we do later. So here I am with this one. Now these columns are bulging slightly, and this is often in doing a whole building from some distance. These bulges aren't as obvious, and so I'm not particularly trying to draw them because visually they're not an important part of my scene. But in this case, because we are close up, I am trying to capture them. And you'll notice that because I'm not trying to draw a finished drawing with this is a drawing exercise. This is something that's going to take me about 15 minutes to do in real time. It took me 16 minutes to do in real time. You're watching this just, I think, a quarter as fast again. So it's virtually full time. So it's virtually real time. It's more important to find the right marks and to work out what should be on the paper, because I want to have practice at observing what's there accurately and at finding the marks that capture that to the degree I want. I'm not worried if there are extra marks there at the end. This is a learning process, a learning experience for me, and it's one that will build each time that I do it. And it is more challenging often drawing more detail close up than drawing the whole caboodle from a greater distance. And as I said, it certainly helps us to understand the detail more intensely, so that when we do draw it, we can see the things more easily. It's a bit the way I talk about, if we understand perspective theory, we don't need to know the theory if we're drawing from life or from a photo, because we can simply observe the perspective that's in front of us and capture that. It's a similar thing here. But if we do understand the perspective theory, then it's easier to see it in our photo, in life. And if it's easier to see it, it will be easier to incorporate it accurately, or effectively at least, into our drawing. And it's the same, I think, with the architectural detail. If we understand what it looks like close up, if we understand what these elements actually look like, how they're formed, how they sit on top of one another and are recessed into one another, then when we are drawing them in a whole drawing, it's going to be easier to see what we need to see at whatever distance, whatever size scale, for whatever size pen we're using, and to therefore find the best marks. So it has lots of benefits to simply draw parts of the detail. And the thing to remember is not to try and do too much in a 15-minute exercise such as this. If you start taking 20, 25, 30 minutes to do these daily exercises, then there'll be more and more days where you'll be thinking, oh, I just don't really have time. And the great thing about doing daily exercises for architectural detail such as this is we could get a photo, just the one photo of the whole building, and then day by day we can do small parts of it. If you'd like me to do some more parts of this building and you'd like to see the whole picture, then let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. Maybe I could do a few more of these as daily drawing exercises. And so the benefit there is I don't have to try and find a new subject, a new drawing every day. I just need to crop a little different part of the architecture. And who knows, after I've done 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 of these, I may well take on the challenge of either doing the whole building or at least doing a larger section of it. Now remember, when we're doing the whole building, we'll be further back, and so we will see less detail, and visually the effects that we're going to try and capture might be a bit different to what we're trying to capture in a small section. The overall perspective, keeping that tight and accurate, the alignment of all the horizontal and vertical details are going to be more important. We don't have many here to have to keep aligned. We're only doing really one section of this level of the building and a little bit on each side, and the perspective angled lines don't go very far, but what we do, we still need to keep as accurate as we can, and then we need to allow for that if we draw a larger segment. But it is a lot of fun to play around at a different scale and not to be thoughtful at all about, is it all going to look okay at the end? Because we are learning. But equally, we want to correct things. If lines aren't correct, if the angles aren't correct, we need to correct them. We particularly don't want to get precious with a drawing exercise such as this, because it's only by putting the right lines at the right angle on the paper that I get used to how it feels to put the right lines at the right angles or the right marks or whatever it is we're drawing. So it's sort of an ongoing process of critiquing when I do an exercise such as this. And I'm freed from the burden of having to come up with a drawing, in inverted commas, at the end. I'm free to play around. I'm also free to perhaps go a little bit faster than normal and work at perhaps a more gestural style, a looser way of drawing. When I see many drawings one thing that's very common is what I'd call a lack of confidence in the line work, in the mark making. I don't mean it's inaccurate, but it's been drawn so carefully, so tightly, so intensely that every line conveys this, and it makes it hard to relax with the scene if all the ink on the paper holds all this tension. It's also harder to get variety in our line works, and so it can end up, even if it's all accurately in place, having a bit of an outline, a bit of a cartoon-like feel as well. We want to get used to being able to put marks on the paper with different tension, some of them drawn quickly and loosely and lightly, but others slower and more intensely. And learn to understand the different visual effect that this sort of change in how we put the marks on the paper creates. So I'm sort of getting close to the end here. I've done a little bit of simplification in this, and now I'm just framing. I'm just doing the sorts of details that it's easy not to do in this, but that give good practice if we actually do them. Particularly these ones now at the bottom that I'm about to do. Of course, if you'd like to have a go drawing this, you'll find this reference on my channel community page. Please hit the like button for me. And as I said, if you'd like me to make some more videos from this building of a similar 15-minute real-time, concentrating just on some of the neoclassical features of it, let me know in the comments. But a great way of practicing drawing grand architecture when we both don't have the time to do it, and perhaps we don't yet have the understanding of the architecture as well. This really helps us just to see how all these parts go together, and also starts us exploring some of the lines and marks we can use to capture those effects, even though they may well change if we draw the whole building from further away. But I just find it a pleasure to sit with this sort of architecture and get to look at it as closely and as intensely as I do, and relax with my pen. As I said, having no pressure for these sorts of daily exercises is, I think, one of the best things about it. So we need to make sure that we don't let that pressure creep in, that we don't start to think, oh, I'm creating an artwork. We need to jealously guard the mindset that this is our practice exercise so that we maintain the freedom to explore and to be gestural and to have fun. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Hope you found this interesting and helpful. I hope you give it a go. And if you'd like some more from this building, tell me in the comments. But in the end, whatever you draw, however you draw it, however long it takes you or frequently you get the chance, make sure you have fun. I certainly did with this one. See you next time. Bye.